Hi folks, realised that some of the shapes we're looking at for volume are actually perfect cubes. So to get the answer for them, for the missing sides, slightly different. So we're going to look at a thing called cube numbers. So cube numbers are when you multiply a number by itself, but you do that 2 times, not just like square numbers. Like 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And when we were finding volume, you might have had a little cube and say it was 10 on each side. So really what you did was you find 10 cubed, because you find 10 times 10 times 10, which would give you 1,000. So it's kind of easy whenever you're finding the volume, because they're all the same and just keep multiplying them by themselves. And you get these answers quite easily. And you might use your calculator, and that's okay. If you're going backwards from the volume for a cube, it's slightly harder because you're not going to know all these numbers off by heart. But what you can do is you can use your calculator. So on your calculator, you have this square root button, which we've used before. And say you had the number, say you had the number 100 and you want the square root. You press that button, press 100, comes up on the screen like that, and you get the answer 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. So that's okay for square numbers. We are dealing with cube numbers, but we can do something similar to get the cube root. So go back to your calculator and you'll see above the square root button there's a little cube root symbol. It's the same, but it has a little 3 above it. If you want to use that function on the calculator, what you have to do is press that shift button first. And it's usually yellow because these symbols are printed in yellow. So I'm just going to clear the calculator, cancel, and we're going to find the cube root of 64. Now you are expecting that to be 4. So want to use cube root button, so we press shift, cube root, and you see the little 3 has come up on the screen of the calculator. Then you press 64. There, it's all there. Press equals, and you get the answer 4, and we expected that. So for something that we don't know, we'll use a number, say we're doing for 125. So press cube root, make sure the 3's there, 125, and that gets you the answer 5. Okay. Say we did, I think 343 is cube numbers, so we'll do 343, shift, cube root button, 343, and that will give you the answer 7. So this cube root button is what we use when we are dealing with a cube, and a cube is a box that has all sides the same length. So that's how you recognize it's a cube. You don't do this for the other shapes. You use your dividing. This is not dividing, this is cube root, okay? So for example, if you had this little cube here and you didn't know what the sides were, but they told you that the volume was, hang on, they told you the volume was 1,728. Okay, so we only know the volume and we know it's a cube, but we want to know what the missing sides are, and they're all the same as each other. So you go to your calculator, press cube root 1728. Okay, press equals, and you get the answer 12. So each of these sides must be 12. Try another one. If we had this cube and they said the volume of this cube is 8,000 centimeters cubed. And we know it's cubed, they're all the same length. Then we go to cube root of 8,000 equals 20. So each side of this cube is 20. Okay, this rule only is used for cubes, and you know it's a cube because all the sides are the same length. And that button, that cube root button, is like a square root button, but it has a 3 in front of it. Okay, and if you don't have this Casio, you'll have to look for it on your calculator. It's usually with the square root button. I think for some calculators it might be with this X3 button. If you don't have a scientific calculator, most phones, you go to the calculator app and then you can turn it sideways and it will turn into a scientific calculator. So if you don't have a scientific calculator, these cube roots are going to be almost impossible. You're going to be guessing what you think it is. You do need a calculator, okay? Most of you by now should have scientific calculators, so that's good. So these are for the questions that have a cube attached to them, okay?